righty. Here it is. That one, whatever you want, man. All right.
Hello. I'd just like hello. Thank you, my dear friend, for doing this. I'd also like to thank CAA for the use of the hall, and I'd like to thank Leah from the companies that have set this all up, Leah and Jessica and Annette and Lisa and everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the movie. Thanks for sitting through.
So, Mr. McShane,
Yeah.
how did you end up in Fuerteventura? Can you speak a little bit about your director, Gonzalo Lopez Gallego?
Yeah, I did a movie, Keanu, with him. I think you'd love to work with him. He's a great guy, and he's in the spirit of European independent movie. You can tell there's a certain thing about them when you look at them. I told you I was watching the Dardenne brothers the other day. There's an intensity about the working. Anyway, enough of that. I did a movie with him called
The Hollow Point.
The Hollow Point, yeah, back then in 2014, and we remained friends. And then this writer, who's a friend of his, Nacho Ferrer, came up with this idea of a hitman. But everybody comes up with the idea of a hitman. But over the 3 years, well, it's true, because if you just make a film about a hitman, it's like it's just about him. But then all these other characters came into it. It was the idea, and then it built up. Because I always think about movies. I think about the movie we did, John Wick. I mean, the reason why it's not just because they're well-made movies. You have to earn the affection and the sympathy of the audience. And John has lost his wife and the dog and the car. It's like saying it's inbuilt. No, it is. It's true. You have that. You've inbuilt the sympathy. You have to earn that later. And it's like here it comes a little more enigmatic because of the character, but it's in the same spirit. I mean, and you'll notice if I look vaguely like you do now in this movie. I mean, so I think I took something from
if
all
I
I used
was so lucky to look like you. So you speak about it as like this kind of three. Did Gonzalo come to you 3 years?
Yeah,
were you part of the development of it? I mean,
he came to me and said, I've got this script. He said, it's about a hitman. When we talked about it, and with Nacho, the writer, and over 3 years, it just developed into, a richer story with the mother, and you get the interesting thing, too, is that the original girl who was going to play the part that Nora played was a Spanish actress who was a lot older, more like about 50 she would have been now. And it's interesting that she had committed up to 3 years of the movie, and suddenly it's like, as often happens with independent movies, the money came, but it was there for like a 6-month period, and it came at the perfect time. And she was committed to stage work. She could not get out of it. So the last sort of month, it was Gonzalo was casting another actress, and he said to me, and I said, I don't know. I said, I'm too busy. I said, you're the director. You're going to work with this. You'll think of something. And he came up. He found Nora, and the interesting was that she was about 15 years younger. I mean, so it puts a whole different cast when you're working. And I think, whereas there might have been a hint of a romance between me and the other lady, this takes on a whole more nuanced attitude. And when the great Fanny, Madame Truffaut playing her mother, it became more intriguing than ever. And little things like that help with the movie when you're working on it, when you see it. All I can say is that with 5 weeks on the island, very civilized. It wasn't like as we use this independent, we're dashing here, we're dashing there. It was, we wake up in Spanish, you have a little breakfast, you go to the film, then you have a little lunch with the crew, because there's 25 of you. Then you carry on with the day, you go home in the evening, say have a nice evening, or meet in the morning. Much like we do on Wick, I mean, the same thing, it's work. But we accept the food, no. And you're a very hard taskmaster.
So when you got to the island, was the whole cast there? Was there any rehearsal?
We got there like 4 days before. Finished off like all the wardrobe stuff, whatever. Then you had 2 days of like rehearsing and going through the script.
With
so
the full
everybody's
cast?
on the yeah, because there's only 5 people, so we were able to, and you know, so you're on the same page. So when you start the work, and it's the same we do on WIC. You know, you don't want to start arguing about the script when you get on the set. It's boring as hell for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's preparation leads to sort of great creation, if you like, in a sense.
And so what kind of environment or mood or how did you and Gonzalo and the cast, was this just table reading? Did you put
It all
on a
seemed
treat?
very natural. I mean, sometimes things come together.
Mm.
A plan comes together and you work it, you know? And it was very easy. It's like, you know, the scene in the morning with the kid was, we mainly improvised that, the football scene. It was the basis of it, and then we did it. And he was a great kid, Oscar. And you've got to be prepared, you know, playing a character, you know, I was so into it when we got there that when working with people, I said, well, do what you want to do, and then we'll work around it, because there's many ways you can play any scene, always. The scene that gets me most of the time is when I look at the scene with the mother and the daughter, which I still find one of those, I don't know, I still don't know. I look at it and I go, it's a really interesting scene. Because, you know, she's telling me, don't hurt my daughter, and then they're dancing, and the daughter, it's, you know, it's enigmatic. I like enigmatic a little bit, which I think the film has to be. At the end, but is it a dream? Did it really happen? You know, it's like Beckett, if you like. You know, Beckett's the Beckett version. You'll be doing that later in the year. No, I mean, the great line, which is, I always think is, you know, it's the day of your death is like any other, except shorter. And that's a great explanation of it, I think, of life, you know? And I think of this, and the only thing I can say is watching any good movie, and I love movies, I was, you know, as we talk about them all the time, is that it takes you somewhere else for 2 hours, and if you've been there and had a good time, you come back again and you feel better, no matter what it is. If it's a good movie, it takes you to somewhere where you haven't been, and for those 2 hours in the darkness, you sit there and, wow. That's what you hope to achieve, anyway.
Absolutely. And when you, with the character Wilson and with Gonzalo, did you guys talk at all about the character arc, or did you guys kind of have any hotel afternoon coffees?
No,
speaking
2
about
days.
the journey
The
of
2 days
character?
before we started the movie, we actually, like in the hotel, all the actors were there, and we went through for 2 days the script, talking about the scene.
Okay, so that was just,
and then
You're just on
Gonzalez
page.
very much works with the actors. I mean, I not so much me. I mean, in sense that because the kid was great, but he works with them, and he worked with, and I was there the whole time, whatever. But again, it's
I mean, you guys had a wonderful cinematographer.
Oh, he's great. He's done every movie that
Jose
Gonzalo's ever
David
done.
Montero.
Jose David Montero. Yeah, I mean, and the island is part of the movie. I mean, and that's what you want to feel. And I said, he's a director with a plan. He doesn't come on and say like, wait, I mean, he'll see it. He'll see the scene. They'll comment. But also the fact is, mostly shot on a 50mm lens. You know, it's very much.
Right.
It's very much grammatically a film made in that style, made in a certain style, seeing everything. The occasional close-ups, you'll see it, you know.
Yeah, I found that it has a wonderful formalism and
Yeah.
verite.
And
there
that's
was
him. That's Gonzalo.
composition and then finding the moments and finding that you're kind of also watching the scene, but then in the scene with your character. I thought it was really well constructed.
Well,
So I mean, I thought the choreography of the scenes was really good
Yeah.
too. You know.
well, and also because I'd never been to the island before we started filming, and it is an extraordinary island. I mean, the other islands and Canary Islands aren't like that. You know, Gran Canaria is much bigger and sprawling, and this island is more like Africa. You know, with the sand dunes and the palm trees. Palm trees here in LA are mostly from Gran Canaria.
I mean, your character does say, I mean, I find it's very moving as the introduction of your character, you know, coming through the airport and showing the passport and kind of crossing over into a new world. I was struck by the shot when you get into the car. I think it's in the first car. It's like the camera's on the door. Bang!
Yeah, well, that's the classic sort of, then you're inside him.
Yeah,
That's the
sound design is
grammar. It's like
amazing,
you're
too.
inside him.
Yeah, it's like you're all exterior and then the door closes on that cool shot and then all of a sudden you're in the car.
You're inside his head. As soon as he goes that,
Yeah.
and he's inside, and then it goes from there.
Yeah, it's a
And I
wonderful
love films that
turn.
start off with, about 10 minutes, there's no dialogue.
Yeah. And with the, so going into that with the choreography, working with the cinematographer, let's see, what you like? Oh, your character says it's beautiful. Did the place, the location work any kind of magic to you and the cast? Was there?
I love being there, but I couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. After 6 weeks filming there and being in a place which, it's like, yeah. And it's like working with him so closely. I said, my last words to him were, Gonzalo, I don't want to see you or speak to you for 2 months. No, because you're so you become so, it's like you're in China,
Yeah.
At a certain time, you work so closely with somebody and very intensely and lovingly, and then you come to the end, and it's also because you come into the end, because you're pissed off it's finished too. The last 2 days, the filming, it's like we were filming at night filming the last night before you film, all the little bitty shots that you didn't get, and it's like, get the hell out of here, you want to get away. But you want to get away because you think you've done a good job, and you don't want it spoiled anymore. You want it to finish on a high, and sometimes things finish, you finish filming at 3 in the morning, you're getting on a package tour jet back to England.
I know movies.
The only way to get there is through what do we fly? Ryanair, which is famous. Exactly, that's the only way to get there. Wow, that's an experience. He's the guy that once said, I've found a better way for you to travel. We should put hanging straps on airplanes like you used to do in buses, and charge to everybody who would hang there. So then everybody, Michael Ryan, yes. Ryanair.
Ryan will get you there. Got you there.
Don't fly Ryanair.
I mean, we had so many, there's like a run of scenes in this movie that is where these kind of conflicts, I feel like there's so much kind of dualities going on. I feel like there's so many themes about fathers missing, and fatherhood, and absent fathers, and dying fathers, and soldiers. There's so much about that. Even with the boy, all the characters kind of have revealed this kind of either a play between like their innocence and their light, and then the darkness within. And I think the scenes that you have with Nora, with Gloria, when you kind of discover her past, the scenes that you have with the character Ryan, with what's the gentleman's name? It's so fucking awesome. With Adam. The scenes with Adam and Ryan, how were those to shoot there with Nora on the street when she's like, get me out of the car! And just, I don't fucking need anyone, I don't need anyone.
It's very, well, it was written in a completely different, way, much more dialogue. And when we said the fact is it's about Wilson, Wilson stays too long at the fair. That's the whole thing about the movie. He knows once he stays and once
you broke the rule. You broke rule number 1.
Absolutely, broke the rule, and also got involved, which he said he never would. And the character that the kid Adam, terrific actor, who he knows his dad's best friend was his best friend, died in the Falkland Islands in the war. The ocean, the ship represents his past. Wilson's a loner, he's an army man, they have a completely different mentality. That's why you have, honor, duty, love, whatever. And he discovers too late. I mean, it's like encompassing that, he stayed too long. He's missed a few things, But then the end, he's determined that he'll clean it up. I mean, when he picks her up and he's deliberately taking the pin out of her car, he's like, is he going to kill her? Is he going to get rid of her before whatever? And he can't do that, so he just has that scene in the car where he says, get off the island, whatever, and then goes about his business, and then it all ends, well, you know it's going to end in tragedy. They have to. It has to end in that way. It has to end in tragedy. And the innocent victim is, of course, the person who shouldn't die at all, but it's like it's inevitable. And Adam, he discovers that, the son of his friend has become this monster, but just like him. Except he's now, maybe 20 years later, he's discovered some kind of sympathy or whatever, but he must carry through. And the whole thing with the mother on the phone, it developed. I'll tell you what, it's a real pleasure to be able to sort of create a movie and then actually make it. It's two different things, We're all talking about it, and then you have the chance to make it, and we were all involved. The writer was there, the cinematographer, the director, me, the producer, and Mike Elliott, my partner, who came up with, the money guy at the end, which enables to make the movie. But when you've actually made it, then you hand it over, and I see, and it's literally the movie you see is the movie that we wanted to make. And how often can you say that?
Yeah, Gonzalo edited it as well.
He edited, he's a one-man band. Oh no, he's just made, he's just made a film now on his own. He lives in Gran Canaria. Doesn't live in Ventura, but he lives on Gran Canaria. And he's a very creative guy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there's such a sophistication, and I thought it was lovely after the kind of the journey of like you murdering the two people in their home or their vacation home. The surprise, the kind of dark side of your character, and then the character Ryan coming back. The death of Nora, you holding her hand, your confrontation with your kind of quasi-son. We don't see that murder, which I thought was interesting. And you see him in a car with a lone tear, and then you carrying him back to the water which you haven't been in since the death of your best friend, let's say, comrade.
40 years.
Yeah, I've been in the water for 35 years ago. I mean, this film takes place in sort of the 2000, the late teens of 2000.
It's nice to be able to, the character like Wilson is like, it's a symbol as well as they're very much, maybe that's why we were disappointed in a sense that we didn't get into more festivals, but I think it's because it's a genre film to a certain extent, and genre films have to fulfill certain things. I mean, the gun has to go off. It's like Chekhov, If there's a gun on stage at the beginning, it has to go off by the end, otherwise, no. So there has to be some kind of denouement. And Gloria, and we talked about that ending with the writer forever, with who would kill who would shoot, and it's got to be, you don't want to see him kill the kid. There has to be formalism, and at the same time, a dreamlike. I mean, the ending, I love the ending with the shot above and the boat below the waves. It's below the waves. As indeed, there's a real American star, because it's based on a true story about this American luxury liner, which was in the 30s and was commandeered, as she said, in that.
Which has its own light and dark story of a luxury liner that becomes a prison, which becomes...
Whatever.
Right. And to the kind of dreamlike quality to, again, the fantasy into the reality of the actual wreck underneath the water being subsumed by nature.
That's what we all go to.
In the end,
That's it. That's it. But let's row our boat as best we can, merrily down that stream. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. I think, you know, it's a really lovely, well-made, superbly acted film. And, you know, and as an example of genre, I think it's playing above the rim. And I'm happy to hear that, you know, you were a producer on the film.
Well, but yeah, well,
You know, it was when he approached me about it, the script, and we talked about it, and then we would take notes. And over 3 years, I never met Nacho, but over 3 years doing other gigs. I mean, I did, you know, by the time we talked about that, we did 2 other John Wicks, you know, in between. And we talk about it with them, and we always knew, and Gazzello did other projects, and we knew we'd get together again, and then suddenly it came together at the right time, and you were able to make it. So it was kind of like a concentrated 3-month period, which was like a month, 2 months before we shot, and then a month we shot. Yeah, 4-month period. It's like, wow, did we do that?
And you did, and I remember speaking to you after, and you were just, you know, how kind of happy you were with the film that you made and was a part of. And, you know, that doesn't happen all the time.
It doesn't. We're very lucky. I mean, we're very fortunate that it came together. We found this financial benefactor came with the bulk of the money, Terry Smith, and it's all on the screen. You know, I mean, the film looks like a
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like $1 million, and that's how it was in David because. And Gazzello, but I mean, don't people know? It's like you've got to trust your filmmaker too. It's not like you know, you've got to say. And half the time I knew what he wanted, and I knew the way we do it. So it was a relaxed, intense shoot.
Duality again. And here we are.
And here we are.
And so
Rather
bravo.
like, you know, yeah, it was rather like 6. How many nights did we do outside the church?
A lot.
A lot.
6. No, I was just thinking when I look at him sometimes, and we think of when you work with somebody, and you have a sort of a second nature. Like you, when you come in, when we do the scenes, you always say, "Can we talk about it 3 days before?" So we talk about the scenes, and then there's never any wasted time when you're on the set. When actors go, they come, they go, "Now listen, now this scene." Yes, well, couldn't you mention this last night? Because, you know, that's bullshit, you know. So you got to get that out of the way. So you concentrate on the work the next day.
Thank you all for coming this evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jay. Any questions?
I don't know. No questions.
We like you liked it.
Thank you.